Angela, thank you so much. It's great to have all of you guys here. I know that your time is extremely valuable, and the purpose for this webinar is to actually give you a slice of me and a slice of the energy that I'm going to give in all of my presentations. For those of you who know me already, I teach by a stepwise repetition for the concepts to be implanted in your brain so that they can actually just be a part of you without actually having to write any notes. But I believe that learning should be fun, it should be actually just informative, relaxing, and it shouldn't be hard. Because when things are too hard, then you don't understand them at all, and it's just very frustrating. But this webinar is going to be a sampler of some of the things we're going to talk about at the full seminar that you're going to see me in Spokane on September the 8th. So I'm Army trained. I've delivered thousands of babies. I joined the Army to learn OBGYN, board certified in '84, private practice. I retired my traditional medical practice in 2011, and now I exclusively teach and lecture pretty much nationally and internationally. And I always like to actually just always teach. I've always been a teacher. So you're going to understand how all the hormones influence each other and attain hormone balance. And follow me on this because you're going to have some great concepts implanted in your brain just from a small snippet of actually all of the information. So when you actually talk about hormones, you have to start somewhere. And you say, we're going to talk about cortisol and insulin and glucose and adrenals and how do these all fit together. And they all fit together by actually your brain and your parotid gland actually saying, I smell something, I see something, and the hormones, the cytokines, are going to come into your blood and say, oh my goodness. Well, when you talk about starting the hormones, we start with ghrelin, and it's the I am so hungry hormone. When you have the hunger sensation, you have your insulin elevate, your cortisol elevate, and you have your estrogen also elevate. I'm going to tell you about that. When you have leptin, which is the counterbalance, the body always has positive and negative influence. And leptin is the Lammy hormone. It's like, I am so full. I had my Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and it's just like I can finally stop eating. But the leptin hormone is one that helps control fat storage and appetite. And as you see here, the leptin and the ghrelin actually feed off each other. So it's a feedback loop to say, I'm satisfied, I'm hungry. I'm satisfied, I'm hungry. This is why people that go to buffets, everybody stops eating eventually because the leptin is actually there. So when we talk about the two of them, they work together as a feedback mechanism. Now, we said leptin, so we're putting a concept into your brain and saying, what's the big deal for leptin? Because when we talk about leptin and heart disease, we can say obesity and heart disease are really related. And we said leptin already is a fat hormone produced in the fat cells associated with increased heart risk. So by having increased plasma levels of leptin in people who are heavy, this is quite dangerous. Because if the leptin does not cross the blood-brain barrier to go intracellular, that person never gets the signal to stop eating, and they're always hungry. This is why people that are always hungry saying you just ate, but it's like their leptin levels are high. When you actually have leptin and you have heart disease, there's a close relationship between leptin and highly sensitivity and on every patient that walks in your door, because if you have high CRP, you have high inflammation, and this is actually very dangerous because what is making you older, fatter, heavier, stiffer is inflammation. So when you actually look at CRP, we're going to see how these hormones have a role in inflammation and also having heart attack. When you talk about leptin, leptin says the hypothalamus that we've had enough food to eat. We can't stop eating. So now we know it's like it's an appetite suppressant. But what does leptin do besides that? Leptin has to get intracellular. It increases triglyceride, which is fat storage breakdown in the fat cells. Remember that if you eat too much food and you have too much glucose in your blood, your body will use what it needs, but the extra is going to be stored as free fatty acids, triglyceride, and cholesterol. So you can't eat all the food you want because it goes into fat storage. So having leptin go inside that cell breaks down those fat cells. Excess glucose accumulates in the blood is converted by glycerol-3 phosphate dehydrogenase, which is an enzyme. And enzymes are extremely important. They're amino acids into triglycerides for storage into the fat cells. Now, all of this that we said so far is what? As we age, we become leptin resistant. You think of leptin the same way you think of insulin and insulin resistant. So, when I told you already that the highly sensitivity C-reactive protein is the most accurate marker of systemic inflammation and that it binds leptin and prevents it from crossing the blood-brain barrier. What did I just say? What I just said was if you have high CRP, and I'll tell you the values a little bit later, it's 0.55 for men and 1.55 for women, I'll tell you now, and I'll tell you again later, is that if you have high CRP or if you have systemic inflammation in your blood, it's going to bind your leptin. The leptin is not going to cross the blood-brain barrier, and you're going to stay hungry all the time. Every time you're hungry, you have epinephrine, insulin, and cortisol activated at the same time. High hunger, high cortisol. High cortisol, high stress, high cortisol, high weight gain, all at the same time. Put these hormones all together because this whole seminar is how to balance all your hormones and how they each play off each other. So by just having this one example for you, this is now proof that systemic inflammation and, this is important, detoxification failure plays a powerful role in weight regulation. Just even to actually gild the lily one step further, I'm going to tell you about CRP and interleukin-6. Now, if you have elevated CRP, which we said is inflammation, and you have IL-6, which is another inflammatory cytokine, and think of cytokines, these are cell messengers that are in your matrix. You're going to see a picture of the matrix in a second. The two of these together indicate a greater risk of contracting or dying from many diseases. So if you have high CRP in your blood test and you have IL-6, you are now have a higher chance of having a heart attack, even though you don't have one right now, a stroke, and Alzheimer's disease. So it even goes one step further that people that actually had CRP and IL-6 who were not diabetic were found to be higher who later developed diabetes. So what I'm telling you now is that inflammation with this marker of CRP will tell you if you're going to have diabetes in your future, Alzheimer's, stroke, or heart attack. This is just another way to say inflammation and diabetes are all tied together. Of all the slides I have in my entire repertoire, this is one of my favorites. This is actually the extracellular matrix. And in this slide is actually your visual to say, stay with me on this one. In your body, and every part of your body, your bones, your teeth, your hairs, your nails, your lymphatic system, this is called the matrix. And you think of this as ground substance, but in this matrix, I call this whole thing the cesspool of life. Here is your fat cell. We said fat cells store toxic waste. So you had too much to eat, your steak was too big, your extra sugar went into the fat cell, all your toxin waste from your formaldehyde and all your pollution all went into the fat cell. We said the fat cell stores easy toxins, and hair, skin, nail, and teeth store hardcore toxins, lead, mercury, cadmium, things like that. Now, we've already talked about cytokines, but here they are. So here we are, and in this matrix, you have reticular fibers, you have lymphocyte, you have macrophages. Each of your body cells will tell you what to do. You eat some sushi that's bad, and you have a parasite in your gut, and your body says, that was bad sushi, that wasn't fresh. What are you going to do? The macrophage is going to eat that parasite, and it's going to send out cytokines to say, I'm going to dissolve you, and then you're going to have other cytokines that will say, stop chewing up the sushi. Lymphocytes come out with long-term diseases, and neutrophils come out right now. So this is first-line defense, this is second-line defense, lymphocyte, and this is parasite defense. These are cytokines that are all reacting to each other. When you look at this slide, you'll say this is a nerve fiber. If you pinch my leg and you say, I say, ow, I'm pinched. And then you say, how do you know you were pinched? Because this fiber put out cytokines and chemokines coming later up to my brain, back to my ground substance again, and said you were pinched on your left leg of moderate intensity. So your body knows. Now, the key is, what did we say earlier? We said detoxification failure. When this fat cell needs to dump its garbage, it has to go into the matrix to actually be filtered and tied up by all of your antioxidants. So all the antioxidants, your OPC Synergy, your Vitanox, your green tea, all your things that fight inflammation will now neutralize that, and you can pee it out. When you find that you actually don't dump your matrix and you have too much cortisol, you can't sleep. You're hyper, you're nervous, you're anxious, and you find yourself not being able to detoxify. Your body has the most detoxification when you sleep, and you dump your garbage when you sleep. This is why after a good night's sleep, you wake up and say, I feel so refreshed. And then say, why? You dumped your cortisol. What did we say about cortisol already? High cortisol, high epinephrine, high adrenaline, all those things. So now you know a whole bunch more than you did already when we started this webinar. So now we know the toxic waste is deposited into the cellular matrix for disposal, and we have to actually add more water from our body to dilute that cesspool so your body can pee it out. And this is another example of, say, why do you have to go to the bathroom to pee when you wake up in the morning or during the night? Well, you have to go pee in the morning because your body is trying to detoxify all of the garbage. Go ahead and try not to pee all day after you wake up. And it's like you'll be miserable all day, and it's like it's not going to happen. So we want to know that fat cells store toxic waste, and the thing about the fat cells, that's just one mechanism. Your entire body has your lymphatic system, your breathing, your liver, your gallbladder. Everything works to make your body detoxify. So now we know about cardiac CRP and diabetes, Alzheimer's, but if you have high CRP, you are going to have an early death after diagnosis of cancer. So this is actually Circulation 2008, but this is the way I teach. And I teach by giving you examples of how important it is to actually know what this CRP means and the implications if you have high CRP in yourself, your family, or your patients, and because you don't want to have inflammation in your blood. So we want to actually say monitor your CRP. If I didn't tell you enough already, it's actually the whole thing for the chronic toxins is like, now we know that if you have toxins, you're going to have allergies, autoimmune. This is all from your T cells, from your matrix, nervous system. You can have chronic fatigue, depression, can't think, infertility, infections. And now we know if you have chronic toxins that stay a long time, you're going to have autoimmune problems. I'm going to show you that in an example. Chronic dermatitis, skin. This means that you did not detoxify because you have garbage staying in the skin layer and it's going all the way from pimple, acne, skin, psoriasis, lupus, and then skin cancer. And then also obesity and autism. So all from actually, so even if I didn't actually tell you enough already, it appears that CRP and dementia is that if you are obese at middle age, you have twice as likely to develop dementia later in life. So check your CRP. So I already told you about cholesterol. It's that if you have high cholesterol from many times from having too much glucose. Homocysteine levels we'll go to in our lecture, our seminar. We do a lot more detail of everything I've told you in the full 8-hour and 12-hour seminar. The one in Spokane is a one-day seminar. Homocysteine, we actually always do a homocysteine blood test with our CRP because this tells us liver function and inflammation. And if you have elevated homocysteine, what does it mean? It means that you have failure of phase 1 to phase 2 detox. So it's good to check. Now, let's recap. We already said insulin increases ghrelin, thus hunger. Thus, insulin increases ghrelin. I'm so hungry. Every time you're hungry, you're going to have a spike in your cortisol. Can you gain weight from eating no food? Absolutely. High cortisol will cause your body to get your adrenaline up from your adrenals to tap your liver to give it more blood sugar to feed you, and you ate nothing. Cortisol increases insulin. Bingo. Cortisol also decreases thyroid function by blocking T4 to T3 conversion. T4 is thyroxine, T3 is triiodothyronine, and T4 is firewood, T3 is fire. If you don't have enough fire in your body for the cells to actually activate, your body stays frozen. Also, the liver produces thyroid-binding globulin, and this is a sex hormone-binding globulin to decrease thyroid function. We're going to go over SHBG in big detail in the seminar. And then we have serotonin as another hormone. When you have serotonin, you say, I feel so good. Where do you have the most serotonin? When you actually have your running and your jogging and you feel happy. And are you hungry when you have serotonin? No, because it increases leptin and says, I'm full. So after your workout, are you hungry? And it's like, you're not. So what you're going to find here is that this slide is your most important slide that actually says everything. Now we know that cortisol upregulates estrone. We're going to go over estrone, and it's different than E1, E2, E3. We're going to do a big lecture on this for the estrogen dominance portion of the second half of the lecture. So we already said cortisol upregulates estrogen, and high estrogen upregulates cortisol. What did we just say here? We just said that if you have too much estrogen, you're going to have too much cortisol, which is going to make you have too much estrogen. Estrogen is an extremely dangerous hormone. When you test your estrone, estrone is from your fat cells. So your fat cells make estrone. Your body converts it to estradiol. When you go through menopause and you have no more ovarian function because you've gone through the change, why don't you just fall apart and actually have no hormones? And the answer is estrone is made by the fat cells, and that's your estrogen. This is why people who are heavier don't have the hot flashes of someone who is skinnier. So this is the difference of the estrogens. We're going to go into this in big detail in your seminar. This also says that high estrogen increases your thyroid-binding globulin, which means that the thyroid can't put its fire on you. Remember, every cell in the entire body has thyroid hormone receptors, every cell. So if we actually block our thyroid by actually having more estrogen, and we actually bind up the activity of the thyroid, now we have lower metabolism. So the whole mantra for this whole decade is inflammation. So we want to actually decrease inflammation. How are we going to do that? Well, here's my 10 best recommendations. Improve digestion. We're going to go over probiotics, minimize your cortisol, lower your stress, keep your insulin low because you don't want to have any stress. You don't want insulin, activates cortisol. You want to eliminate any excess estrogen. You want to make sure you metabolize your estrogen properly. And we're going to talk about all the standard processed products, so your indole 3-carbinols, your cruciferous complete, your garlic. We're going to treat the hypothyroidism. We're going to make our adrenal glands really healthy because we have to actually get your antioxidants all made. We want to eat healthy, which means you can't have a big steak and eat the whole thing and know that you're not going to gain weight, because every now and then, eat the whole steak. Have a good life. But, not all the time. Get your exercise on to get your metabolism, stop the inflammation, and get enough sleep, because we said you must actually dump the cortisol. When we talk about the fatty acids, we say we want to stop inflammation. What's the first thing you need to do? You need to actually have your omega-3s and your omega-6s online. And people say fish oil, flaxseed oil, and then many times you say, I know about these things, but what's the difference? And I said, well, I don't understand this myself the way that I need to or should, so I'm going to break it down myself. So go on this little journey with me, because we're going to talk about our cytokines, our COX and LOX enzymes. So here's the deal. When you have pure omega-3, and the body needs omega-3, 6, and 9, and a balance, this is actually, and flaxseed is an omega-3, and this is your alpha-linolenic acid, ALA. This actually makes your EPA and your DHA. You always think DHA as like your brain being stupid, and you say, "Dah," and it's like you want high DHA in your product so that you can have better brain function, and this is very important for prenatal and for babies. EPA I always think of as the Environmental Protection Agency, and this is good for your heart. Now you'll see here that these two long-chain fatty acids make your COX enzyme and your lipooxygenase enzyme and your LOX. These convert to anti-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. It's a home run. Now let's go across the street here and look at the omega-6s. And this is why you don't cook with corn oil, safflower oil, sunflower. Don't even have these in your house, because what these do is they do make your GLA, which is your omega-9s, and this is your gamma-linolenic acid, GLA. Now, I love GLA. It's excellent for your hair, skin, nails. We'll be doing a seminar series on 2013 on Beauty and the Beast. And we're going to go over all the things that you can do to have the most gorgeous hair, skin, nails, no acne, no pimples, good bowel function. And you're going to take your GLA and your black currant seed, you're going to put it on your face, because it actually works superb for skin, face, hair, nails. So if you have neuropathy, this goes into the nerves. But when you have GLA, it breaks down into a dehomogamma-linolenic acid. Here is what happens. Half of this turns into PGE1 anti-inflammatory. The other half is pure meat, arachidonic acid. All meat is acid forming and producing and inflammatory. This converts into your COX-2 inflammatory and your LOX-4 inflammatory. So all meat is guaranteed to have inflammation. To prevent your Alzheimer's and to stop your heart and make yourself healthier, you want to have a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio of omega-3 over omega-6s. Now, do the fish actually have this inherently? No. They actually eat the algae. We eat the fish. So when we talk about omega-3, we say, we're going to stop having painful periods. We're going to work on our obesity, skin conditions, pulmonary function. We're going to say the products that we like. And in the lectures we do, we have a full lineup of all the products that you can use for every condition with the dosages, because in the seminars I'm allowed to actually give you all the products and the dosages that I like, and the ones I researched from Royal Lee and all the things that are not in the standard process manual, because the manual is regulated by the FDA. So you have your Cataplex F, has your iodine. You need iodine for thyroid and also for intracellular metabolism. Your flaxseed oil, we already said flaxseed is what? It's an omega-3. The body actually, if you have too much flaxseed, it will convert into some of the omega-6s, and then it will cause inflammation. Your black currant seed oil and your wheat germ oil is actually excellent as a high-dose vitamin E. This is vitamin E, which is super potent antioxidant for free radicals. We also have our chlorophyll, which is an alkalinizing product. Your body makes too much acid. We're going to go over detoxification at big time about acid-base balance and how to clean up your matrix to make your body more alkaline. More alkaline means you're going to detoxify and actually get rid of the garbage. When we talk about the estrogens, we said there's E1, E2, E3. Now, I already told you that E1 and E2 go back and forth, and the key here is not this, it's the metabolism to the 2 or the 16 form. So all of this takes place in the kidney, liver, and the breast. Now, when we talk about the end products, we're going to say there's an imbalance between the types of estrogens. I already told you that the estrogen levels decline when you actually have your menopause, but estrone levels go away much more slowly. They hang on, resulting in more estrone than estradiol. So when we talk about the importance of these two, it's the ratio that becomes the important factor. So here is the key fact you need to know. You could do a urine test, a spot urine, to see which your 4, 16, and 2-hydroxyestrogens are. In your brain today, know that 16 and 4 are dangerous. If you have the metabolite of a 4 or a 16, you have inflammation coming in your life big time. You're going to get heavier, have cancer, and people that have high 4, high 16 have more colon cancer, breast cancer, intestinal cancer, while the 2-hydroxyestrone prevents and works against the 4 and the 16. So we want to actually modulate these things. This is a very important slide that I borrowed from Wikipedia, and this is estrone, estradiol. What do we say here? Estrone is actually, when you have, this is your cruciferous complete. Diindolylmethane makes a 2 metabolite, protective. When you actually have a 16 and a 4, cancer, cancer. So the 2 is protective against these 2 already. When you look at IC3, we said, why do we always say take your SP complete, take your cruciferous complete? Very, very, very important, because I'd rather take products in my life than get blood tests. I don't want to be tested to see if I have it. Go ahead and actually take your high dose of your Brussels sprouts, your garlic, your cruciferous complete. What this has found is actually in broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. What happens is they modulate the hormones to make you have a 2 metabolite. If you're a guy and you weigh more, you need more indole-3-carbinol or cruciferous complete than you are if you're a woman and you weigh 100 pounds. So the dose is actually based upon weight. In your standard process catalog, it can't tell you that because it says this is the dosage. What does cruciferous complete have in it? It has kale. You should have kale for breakfast every day. It is actually so packed with minerals and vitamins, and you have so much more energy when you have these vegetables in the morning. I do this with my eggs in the morning. So, but remember, E2, the 2 is anti-cancer, and the metabolite is anti-inflammatory. When you look at people that have high estrogen, this is one of our guys. This guy is not healthy. He actually has man boobs, which means he has an estrogen level over 35. He has poor skin integrity. He has trusses. He has hernia. He has poor collagen. He has insulin resistance. This is why men and women, on the tummy, there's more receptor sites for insulin receptors on the abdomen than there are in the arm, which is why you can actually say, I'm overweight. Why aren't you heavy in your arm versus your tummy? Because the receptors are here. High estrogen, crave sweets. Fibroids, estrogen. Fatigue, low thyroid symptoms. Crave sweets. Why? Because what is sweet craving? It's a chromium deficiency. What do we say about insulin resistance? Chromium does what? It lowers the threshold for insulin, for glucose, to go into the cell. So these are all common things. Your body is not stupid. So when you try to fool your body and you say, I'm going to diet and lose 20 pounds, it's not going to work, because your body is going to hang right with you and know that there's no food coming down in the oven to say, we have no food to eat today or tomorrow, so we need to lower your metabolism so you can actually keep my brain functioning. So estrogen and thyroid have opposite effects. So estrogen causes calories to turn into fat. High estrogen, high cortisol, high fat. Thyroid hormone initiates fat conversion to energy. Thyroid is ATP. Thyroid is fire. Estrogen is cortisol and fat metabolism. I already told you already, T4 is firewood, T3 is fire. The way I teach, I say something once, I bring it back, I come back a second way from the back door, say it again. T3 is your fire. It is 8 times more potent than T4. If you have thyroxine, which is synthroid, which is synthetic, and you have poor health, you got poor hair, poor skin, poor nails, and you have no food, no minerals, brittle nails, you don't have enough nutrition in your body to convert your own T4 into T3. I don't care how much T4 you have. If you don't have good health, you can't make fire out of your T3. So those are just some of the concepts we had from the first lecture we're giving in Spokane, and it's just a matter of saying, let's just go over how to think. So come to the seminar, and there's so much more to say. We're also going to be presenting a seminar on adrenal fatigue and wellness on that seminar for Standard Process Spokane. And we always say for the adrenals, it's like, you always want to have good adrenals, good support, because that's where you say, God, I feel so good. Because adrenal fatigue on the end of the road is fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue. You want to have high cortisol in the morning because you have so much that you have to do. And you want your cortisol to go down to nothing at bedtime so that you can sleep really, really good and detoxify. Now, we already said we have the thyroid hormone. And I already told you that every cell in the entire body has thyroid receptors. So intracellular cortisol controls thyroid hormone production. So you need to have some really good adrenals to have the cortisol control your body's energy and metabolism. And the nice part about your body is that if you have hypothyroid symptoms, such as you don't have a temperature of 97.6, or you actually are always tired, you may have poor adrenals. And if you actually beat your adrenals to death with work or stress or kids or coffee all the time, and you have constant non-stop stimulation, this is actually your road to burnout, because constant cortisol is actually allows you to say, I can do this, I can do this. It's like, okay, cool. Then it's like, I'm with you. And then your body will say, you know what, I'm going to hang with you for a while, but then I'm not going to hang with you after too long, followed by depletion, and your body says, you know what, you are on your own. And it's like, I am not going to deal with you anymore. So when you have chronic fatigue syndromes, you can have these panic attacks where you say, all of a sudden it's just like you have no reserve. Are you having a sex drive when you are adrenal fatigued? You have no money, you have no job, you have no house, you have high stress, and you say your life is going, just down the road in the wrong direction. Do you want to have sex? Absolutely not, because your adrenal and cortisol is blocking from the hypothalamus. We're going to go over this in the other lecture we do for you, the full lecture, and go over just how your body functions and how one hormone works with the other. Where do we feel, and how here we have unclear thinking. Why would you have unclear thinking and adrenal fatigue? Remember our detoxification and our extracellular matrix? Remember that cortisol must be dumped. Once you get up from your sleep and you have your afternoon nap and you go pee and you say, now I can actually do all my projects and write my research and do my timesheets, because you dumped your cortisol. If you don't dump your cortisol, it actually interferes with your ability to work on your hypothalamus and to actually think. Absent-mindedness, same thing. So when we talk about stress, we know about Hans Selye. He actually was the first one that says chronic stress causes changes in the entire body. This is a nice chart that you can have. All of your notes are actually available to you through this webinar, and they're actually able to be printed for you, and they'll also be online. Talk to Janice Churchill, actually at Center Process Northwest, for whatever you need, because she is phenomenal, as is the entire staff here. When you actually talk cortisol, you say this is glucocorticoid excess, which means too much cortisol, which means insomnia, anxiety. Too much cortisol. The liver is being tapped to give sugar out. You're going to get fatter, hypertension, too much cortisol. Your body is going to suck your bones dry to give all the minerals it needs for your basic enzymes, and now you're going to have immune suppression and be at a risk for having more cancer. So putting the two together, if you have a diagnosis of hypothyroidism, 50% of you are going to have a diagnosis of adrenal fatigue at the same time. The two go hand in hand together. Now, I already said that you have your cytokines in your body, and you have one of the keys for discoveries of the stress thing is your T cells and your B cells. Now, do not forget that your body is based upon cells, and these cells communicate with each other. These T cells are your immunity for your hardcore viruses and your cancer-killing cells. Your B cells are your antibodies to say, you have an infection, let me help you. This goes back to that picture I showed you of the lymphocytes and the neutrophils, the macrophages. What do those cells do? They make these cells. What I'm telling you is that when you have adrenal problems, you have impact on your T cells. It is more disrupted than your antibodies. So this is a very, very nice slide that I got from Sapolsky. And here's the deal here, is that this is immune function on the vertical, and this is a little stress, more stress, and a ton of stress. This is your body saying, I'm going to rise to the occasion, and we're going to fight off this little monster or this killer cell or virus or bacteria or infection together, and we're going to kill it. And then if the infection stays too long or the stress, your body says, I can't hang with you anymore. So is an increase followed by your body saying, I'm done. Now, this is a nice slide that says the immune function. Why do you have a herpes infection or a cough or cold or virus after you've run yourself ragged and you've gotten no sleep and haven't had enough vitamins, antioxidants, SP Complete, whey protein, green tea, Vitanox, vitamin C, Cataplex C, any of those at all? Because your body's immune disease range is the T cells and B cells now cannot communicate with each other. What do we say? If you have high stress and you do not detoxify, the cortisol stays in your body and all the toxic waste stays in. What I haven't told you is that when you detoxify, and if you fail to detoxify, all the garbage goes back to where it came from. So it goes back to the liver, the skin, the hair, the nails, wherever the garbage was trying to come out of into the matrix, and it failed to be dumped. It goes back into the matrix, and these T cells, lymphocytes, are all up here, and they can't read each other. So this is the immune system. Now, we don't know how adaptogens work, so no one really does, and it has different modes of action, but they actually have an on-off switch, and we're going to go over all the adaptogens that are available to you. So I'm going to give you an entire menu of what to choose when you come to the webinar. So the nice part about these seminars, the notes are brilliant. They're very, very thick, good content, good information, and it actually tells you exactly all the choices, and you'll say, Dr. Greer, what are your favorites? I'll say, my favorites are blah, blah, so-and-so. These are the herbs that have adaptogenic energy. My favorite is Korean ginseng. Astragalus. Remember Astragalus, my mentor, Angela Highwood. I just saw her last week in Australia. I lectured there last week, and I saw Angela. So of all of you guys who know Angela, we'll give a big shout out for Angela, who actually is part of the reason I teach to this day. But astragalus is struggle through your day, take your astragalus, struggle, straggle. Siberian ginseng is dirt cheap. It comes in a tablet or liquid form, and if you find yourself needing a pickup, you actually pop 1 or 2 of these tablets, and it's good. Withania is ashwagandha, my absolute all-time favorite product that works on your brain, your hair, your adrenals, your memory. Those are fabulous. Withania Complex has Korean ginseng, which is the granddaddy of all the ginsengs, ashwagandha, licorice to give you a cortisol dumping right now, and skullcap, which is actually like a baby's calming nerve. It's fabulous. So it's very, very good for tension, stress, memory, ADD, ADHD. Like I said, I actually drink coffee probably about 4 or 5 cups a day, but I live in Seattle, and I take my adrenals extra to allow me to actually have my little coffee break and not have guilt that I'm actually messing up my stress. When we go over the lecture, you'll say juice is very dangerous for you. It incites insulin, and as is sugar. Don't do much sugar juice because it spikes the high insulin, high cortisol, high estrogen. Alcohol actually stuns the liver. We're going to go over that. All metabolism for the liver stops completely with alcohol, 1 ounce per hour. How do you get rid of alcohol? Only by breathing. It only comes out by respiration. So you must blow out enough for this carbonic acid, CO2, and this is why the police will do a breathalyzer test on you to see how much you've drunk. So, but when we actually talk alcohol, we have great products. We have Livco that does what? It works on the enzymes that would cause the toxic side effects for hangover. So if you do drink, take Livco before you drink and after you drink. So when you go party for the weekend for your wedding or bar mitzvah, you're going to have 2 Livco before you go to bed and 2 in the morning. So in the lecture, we were able to give you all the little pearls of how to use these products to say, these are the products, but this is how you use them. By my teaching, I will teach you medicine and then tell you how the products fit into medicine so you know when and how to use the products that Standard Process and MediHerb have available, and that's the best products in the world. So come to the seminar and get the full details for the adrenal fatigue and the great products that treat it. When we talk about estrogen dominance and its role in cortisol, this is a really nice wrap-up session, so we'll finish the seminar on the 8th with this lecture, which goes into really heavy description of detoxification, estrogen dominance, and it's actually, I already told you that it's the liver and the gallbladder. When we talk about E2 dominance, it's actually its relationship to cortisol and thyroid, liver detoxification. Always think liver and gallbladder separately. Treat yourself separately to make sure, because if you have good liver detox and your gallbladder is sluggish and or you're having clay-colored stools or gas or bloating or indigestion, it means that you're not melting the cholesterol and the bile and putting it into your gut and actually pooping it out. What did I say earlier? If you have bad estrogen and you don't dump it by binding to the fiber, the estrogen goes back to where it came from, and now you are double whammy duped. When you do detoxification and you fail your detoxification, the aldehydes and the toxins are worse and more inflammatory than even trying to detoxify in the first place. So we'll go over all of that, and you'll know now glucose and insulin metabolism and how it all works together. When we talk E2 dominance, this is really important because this is fat cells, and we're taking estrogen. Now, you may say, do you have to be heavy to be E2 dominant, or can you be 100 pounds? And the answer is, you can be 100 pounds and be E2 dominant. When you have E2 dominant, it's actually very, very toxic. You saw how you have to actually only have the two metabolite. The 4 and 16 will cause you to actually have higher cancer, prostate cancer for men, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, low testosterone. When we talk about estrogen, we're going to talk about your sex hormone binding globulins. And that's a whole talk on the receptor side of estrogens for saying all hormones want a space at the parking lot. They all compete, just like you saw the slide for the omega-3 and omega-6. What I didn't tell you, there's only one winner. Either you're E3 dominant or you're, omega-3 dominant or omega-6 dominant. Either you're going to be inflammatory state or anti-inflammatory. So the body has one winner, one loser. E2 dominance is from living in our fruits, our vegetables, our chickens. We actually can have signs of E2 dominance are going to be, I told you already, estrogen, glucose, allergic reaction, the inflammation, hot flashes. Hot flashes, why? Because we have estrone, and we have your body's actually, your fatigue from your adrenals, irritability, you didn't dump your cortisol, increased fat production. So estrogen is produced where? In the fat cells. All fat cells make estrogen by the aromatase enzyme. In our lecture, we're going to go over that with you in detail. E2 dominance will have heavy periods. Why? High estrogen, low progesterone. We'll have sleep disturbances. Why? High cortisol, adrenal fatigue, adrenal cortisol, memory loss. You didn't dump your cortisol, PMS. There's no receptor sites for progesterone on the sex hormone binding globulin receptor site. When you crave sweets, what's the key? When you crave sweets, it's telling you you have a chromium deficiency. And you'll take chromium before lunch or dinner, and you won't have that craving for sweet. When you have a craving for chocolate, what's your deficiency? And the answer is magnesium. So when we talk about E2 dominance, insulin resistance, good exercise, progesterone deficiency, you need zinc to make testosterone. Zinc is necessary for 300 different enzymes. You need zinc for good skin, hair, and nails. We're going to talk about that in our other talk. We're also doing a talk this year on brains, bones, and brawn. Look for those in your area. Magnificent anti-aging. So we go over libido, better memory, better energy, better bones, better libido for women and men, and it's a 12-hour seminar, so look for that in your territories. So, in wrapping up, we're going to say, how do we get E2 dominance? Bad liver. Your liver was not cleaned out. Remember, if you store all your fatty garbage in your liver and you have your MRI or ultrasound and it says fatty liver infiltration, what does that mean? That means that all the liver portals are jam-packed with fat, so your liver cells cannot do their thing. It's like there's no dishwashing detergent in the liver to cleanse all that out, which is why you use your lecithin, because it acts as a detergent emulsifier. you do your cholesterol, you do your gallbladder, you do all your things that make the liver fat cells melt to go into the gallbladder. If you have too low a progesterone, which is actually estrogen dominance, your sex hormone binding site receptor sites, we actually say they fight for the same parking spot. You always think of estrogen as the pig in the parking lot. And what it's doing is it's actually taking up all the receptor sites so no other hormones can come to the table. So if we don't have enough good adrenals, if we don't have good supplements to convert T4, T3, remember fish oil is actually really important to cleanse everything because cholesterol is made at the beginning of the cycle of hormones. Cholesterol is a fabulous product, and it's the mother of all hormones. So by not having enough cholesterol, you can't make any hormones whatsoever. If you don't poop out all your bowels and all your garbage, then all your estrogen goes back to where it came from, and it binds, and you have more toxins. So remember that you must detoxify. So now we know that high estrogen activates cortisol, which increases sex hormone binding globulin and thyroid binding globulin and corticosteroid binding globulin. We're going to go over this in the full seminar, but I alluded to this because what is your CBG? This is actually your receptor site from your brain to your pituitary to say, I want more testosterone, I want to have sex. And that, no, you can't have sex because it's bound up. It's blocked. The hormone is blocked, and it's not coming down the path. So all the hormones do function together and influence each other. Always know that this is my favorite slide in the entire world, and it's like fat cells produce estrogen and activate cortisol. So the more fat cells you have, the more cortisol you have. Remember that we said if you have extra fat and you're middle age, you have a higher risk of having dementia, Alzheimer's, heart attack, and diabetes, even though right now today you are in perfect health. Always check your CRP to see if your matrix is on fire. Always know fat cells are the storage sites for toxic waste, and know that cortisol is really important in detoxifying the matrix. If you do not dump your cortisol, the brain signals cannot be received to know what to do with you. So chronic stress will impair the renewal of the matrix, promote accumulations of the toxins in the matrix. So this is actually a lot. When we talk on the detoxification talk, we say you must actually alkalinize, because when you have the matrix and you have infection, it's all acid. We said arachidonic acid is acid. You must, the matrix will actually open up, chew up the garbage, and then go back to an alkaline state. So this is the acid base of the whole thing. When you talk about glucose, we're going to go over our lecture covers diabetes. We'll say insulin's job is to do what? Is to move glucose out of the blood and into the body cells. Remember how we said leptin resistance? So if you have high leptin, it acts in high inflammation, that leptin can't go into this cell. It's not, this is a red cell, but pretend it's a fat cell, to go in and actually melt the fat. So if you have too much insulin, this slide is phenomenal. Print this slide and print these references, because people say, well, I have insulin resistance and I have too much insulin. So what? High insulin promotes hypertension by impairing sodium balance, reference 1. Too much insulin harms the kidneys. Why are there dialysis centers everywhere? And why are there people in Safeway carts and these motorized carts? Because they have diabetes now. Their sugar actually rotted their cells. When the sugar has no insulin to push it into the cell, it stays intravascular and rots the organs, which is why you have toe amputations, blindness, hand amputations, and also insulin is a catalyst, and it works to increase your cancers as a mitogen. when we talk detoxification, this is just a small sample. We actually said detoxification, you need kidney support, great products. We'll go over these in detail. Your Mediure products, your cranberry complex. What did I say earlier? Every organ detoxifies. Anytime any one organ fails to do its job, the other organs must pick up the slack. Skin, important. Dermatrophin PMG, Cataplex F, black currant seed, Dermico, one of my absolute favorite products in the entire world for cellulite. Small intestine support. On your first slide, we said you must have good digestion. The naturopaths all taught me so much of what I know, and in fact, this is why I actually lecture and teach now, and I'm more a naturopath, holistic herbal physician than an allopathic MD, because this is whole food nutrition that your body's asking for instead of drugs. So this is great products. Your Insight Core, it's actually quite brilliant the way it was conceived and designed. Ochrapepsin 3 going to the GI system, coating the lining, chlorophyll, prosymbiotic, lung support, breathing. You must actually have your acid released from your lungs. So come to the seminar, and the stuff you're going to learn in the seminar, you can put the information right in place on Monday morning, and it's been a real treat to give you a little piece of me, and I'm really happy and honored to be speaking for Standard Process Mediherb, and I'll see all of you guys in Spokane on September the 8th. Thanks so much.